name's Gavin, and this is Genre Books. For a science fiction fan, I've got a real problem with space. More specifically, the space that I have on my bookshelf. It's limited. As a result, everything you see here, pretty much everything, is triple stacked. Behind these books at the front, there are another set of books. Behind that set, there's a third tranche. This is great for space saving, but it's terrible for me knowing where anything is. As I pull books for booktube events, they rarely go back where they need to. As more books are required, they're not really put in the right place. I need to sort them out. I actually need to know that I have a log somewhere where all these books are listed. And I think the best way to do this is just to go through them shelf by shelf, and if I'm doing that, I may as well show you. So here's the beginning of a library tour. This is going to be problematic for a number of reasons. There are undoubtedly some really bad books on my shelves. When I've bought something as part of a job lot, I want to keep hold of it just in case it's good. I'm sure I'll get around to it at some point. I never do. Maybe this is the push that I need to either get rid of some that really do look terrible, or for people to stop me before I do something silly and throw out a hidden gem. It's also the case that once I've read a book, it disappears off these shelves, usually. There are some that I keep, but I would suggest that at least 90% of what's on my shelves is stuff I've not read. So I will come at this from a position of relative ignorance. But the good thing about that is I can't sit here and bore on about each book individually. So I should be whipping through some of these, which hopefully make this nice and breezy. The first book is pleasing because it shows I still have some semblance of alphabetical normalcy on these shelves. This is Donald Aamodt with a double A, so there's no one coming before him on the alphabetical stakes. And this is an Avon fantasy book called A Troubling Along the Border. The next is another fantasy book in Questar fantasy from the Ultima saga, Lynn, Abbey, The Forge of Virtue. The next is a Baen book, Baen fantasy rather than Baen science fiction, and Monsters and Magicians. Now, it's by Robert Adams, and this is going to be a feature that I think crops up a few times. So I've got hold of this book, probably as part of a job lot. And I have book 2. I hope, maybe, I should be able to get book 1 quite easily. I hope I might even have it somewhere in the shelves, but I don't think I do for this one. And here again, this is Ace Fantasy, but this is the glorious sequel to The Lord of Crooked Paths. It's Patrick H. Atkins, Master of the Fearful Depths. What a nice cover, and a book that's held together fairly well for, how old is this one? 1989, so it's not ancient, but it's not a young book either. You could argue that I get these things passed through, maybe I should just get rid of them, but then I see that on the back is some appreciative blurb from Poul and Roger Zelazny, so I'm thinking they wouldn't lie to me, would they? Now we come to some of my Brian Aldiss books, and The Shape of Further Things. This is science fiction, non-fiction, a history of science fiction, and possibly a look to what might be coming. So we'll see if he was right. A major work by a major author, the Malacia Tapestry, Renaissance Man in an Alternate Reality. We'll hope I won't read too much into the fact that This is a remaindered book. Cracken at Critical. A book about a found manuscript published in 1995, written in 1945, and bound in a book written in 1987. An overarching story of music and murder within which are set two meticulous parodies of the kind of SF story written in days long gone. Aldiss has found a neat way of going forward whilst looking back. And a trilogy from Brian Aldiss. Helliconia Spring, and on the front here are the beginning of a marvellous journey to another world, a remarkable feat of the imagination, so says John Fowles. I would probably pay attention to John Fowles. I would also pay attention to the Times Literary Supplement, where it says in the 3rd volume, science fiction never had this grandeur. Unfortunately, on the 2nd of the books, rarely has someone else's brave new world been brought so stunningly to life, says the Daily Telegraph. And these days I don't think I would trust the Daily Telegraph if they told me the sky was blue. But the 2nd and 3rd books are Helliconia Summer and Helliconia Winter. Next up, something that isn't science fiction or fantasy. Kingsley Amis, Lucky Jim. But don't worry, straight back to fantasy. Kevin J. Anderson, Gamearth. Signet Books, New American Library, and written to cash in, one would assume, on the fantasy role-playing game craze. Now, time for some Poul Anderson. Bit of a mix of stuff here from him, but ace paperbacks, War of the Wingmen, more ace paperbacks, World Without Stars. I mean, there's a lot of stars on the front cover, but you can't have everything. Time and Stars, Trader to the Stars, Tales of the Flying Mountains, and Nebula Award Stories, Volume 4, edited by Poul Anderson. And stories here include ones by Richard Wilson, Terry Carr, Kate Wilhelm, H. Aldiss, James E. Gunn, and Anne McCaffrey. Now here's a writer. I've not read any of his books yet. I'm told that some of his books are terrible. I am told by other people that his books are brilliant. I may have to make this decision myself. I don't know who I can trust on this subject anymore. I am a little concerned that when you go to big second-hand bookstores, there always seems to be a lot of his books there. Is this just because he was so ubiquitous that they were everywhere? Is it because they've been left behind on the shelf because nobody wants them? Is Piers Anthony, Macroscope, God of Tarot, A Spell for Chameleon. Now I think this is the first Xanth book, and it's the Xanth series, which, do you know what, I think it's still going on. Battle Circle. I think this is actually a trilogy. It's 537 pages long, and it is America rising from the ashes of its final destruction, the epic story of the savage struggle for empire and dominance in a primitive, post-cataclysmic America. I'm going to have to read some Piers Anthony and decide whether I want to keep the others. I just grabbed the next pile and realised that Piers Anthony wasn't over yet. I have Isle of Woman. It's another chunker. It's 470 pages, this one. It's a novel of human history. So here's another anthology, this time edited not by Poul Anderson, but including Poul Anderson, edited by Mike Ashley. Mike Ashley, seemingly ubiquitous when you are looking at genre fiction. He has written and edited, compiled many books for the British Library, as well as his own 5-volume history of the pulps, and editor of many anthologies such as this one. Bit of Isaac Asimov now. The Gods Themselves, A Choice of Catastrophes, which is literally a list of the different ways that the world could end, or the universe could end in some cases. The Caves of Steel. And in case you're thinking at this point that everything is alphabetical, Grimm's World by Werner Vinge. Sundiver by David Brin. I think I've got a sequel somewhere, but it's certainly not with this one. This is another reason I need to sort stuff out. I want to put stuff where I know that I'm going to be able to find it, and together when it's a series, and to know where I've got gaps in my series and whether it's going to be worth filling those gaps. I'll tell you what, although the size of these books is annoyingly different to the size of all the other paperbacks or many of the other sci-fi paperbacks I've got, I do like the ace science fiction, and this is To Outrun Doomsday by Kenneth Bulmer. I do like a book that in the blurb hides its light under a bushel. It says that Modoran is one of the most startlingly original, provocative and fascinating future worlds in all of science fiction. David R. Bunch, Modoran. It is a great cover. I have to run a little repair on this one. Someone has unwisely chosen to try and repair this with sellotape in the past, and it has disintegrated. Book's still in good shape, but yeah, it lasted longer than the sticky tape. Anyway, this is the New English Library. Edgar Rice Burroughs, Tarzan and the Lost Empire. And there he is, fighting a shark. More Edgar Rice Burroughs and a couple of the Barsoom books that I've not yet got to. That is number 9 in the series, Synthetic Men of Mars, and number 10, Lana of Gathol. When I'm done with Barsoom, I can move on to Venus, and here is The Wizard of Venus, number 5 in the Venus series. Not quite sure if I've got many more of the series, so this is a journey of discovery for me, or rediscovery. And a classic of utopian, dystopian, proto-science fiction, Samuel Butler's Erewhon. Sticking with Burroughs, but William S. rather than Edgar Rice, is Junkie. A.E. Van Vogt, The Wizard of Lynn. The Battle of Forever. Planets for Sale. The Weapon Makers. Now this is a sequel to The Weapon Shops of Isha, which I do have somewhere. Probably not in this pile. And Rogue Ship. Joan D. Vinge, and this is The Outcasts of Heaven's Belt. An imprint I'm not familiar with, Aspect Fantasy. This is Daughter of Prophecy by Anne Kelleher Bush. And you didn't think that that Asimov was the only Asimov I owned, did you? The End of Eternity by Jupiter. I, Robot, The Rest of the Robots, and his collaboration with Robert Silverberg, Nightfall. Now this is a Fawcett Gold Medal book, which doesn't mean a lot to me, but I do enjoy Aldiss Budrys, and this is The Amsirs, and the Iron Thorn. And 2 for the price of 1 here, The Evil That Men Do by John Brunner, and The Purloined Planet by Lynn Carter. 2 complete science fiction novels, it says, but as it's 170 pages, I'm going to suggest these aren't novels as such. I think 2 complete novellas would have been quite satisfactory. So the alphabetical order, as you can see, is all out of whack. The A's are in there with the V's, and it gets worse because I decided for some reason to put all my DAW books together, so the alphabet has flown out of the window. We have Andre Norton, Spell of the Witch World, EC Tub, The Coming Event, that's number 26 in the Gamearth of Terror series, and I've got other books in the Gamearth of Terror series in a completely different imprint, and Far Away from Volume 26. Hero of the Downways by Michael G. Coney. John T. Philippant's and King of Argent. Sleepwalker's World by Gordon R. Dixon. Hawk Mistress by Marion Zimmer Bradley. The Regiments of Night by Brian N. Ball. The Star Droppers by John Brunner. I love that cover. Philip Jose Farmer and The Other Log of Phileas Fogg. Ron Goulart's Space Hawk Incorporated. Brian M. Stableford, To Challenge Chaos. Jeff Sutton's The Mind-Blocked Man. Louis Trimble's The Wandering Variables, another great cover. And finally, for DAW, appropriately enough, Donald A. Wollheim presents the 1972 annual World's Best SF. This includes Larry Niven, Joanna Russ, Stephen Tall, Michael G. Coney, Paul Anderson, Christopher Priest, R.A. Lafferty, Alan Dean Foster, Leonard Tushnet, Eddie C. Burton, Arthur C. Clarke, Barry Malzberg, Harlan Ellison and Theodore Sturgeon. As well as keeping all the Door books together, I've also kept the Ace Double books together. And I've actually got two questions with Ace Doubles. The first question is why, even in the ones I've got, they seem to have changed their design 5 times, including the size of the book. And secondly, if these were to go alphabetically, how am I to do that with 2 authors for each volume? Philip Jose Farmer, again, and Lord of the Trees, and no prizes for guessing who this character might be based on. And on the flip side of this, oddly enough, another Philip Jose Farmer, the Mad Goblin. So, both of these characters based on well-established literary characters, Tarzan and Doc Savage. Sorry, not Doc Savage, Doc Caliban. He's probably known as the Man of Copper or something. K.M. O'Donnell, In the Pocket and Other SF Stories. And another K.M. Donnell. So, Gather in the Hall of the Planets. And another double where both works are by the same author, Lester Del Rey's The Sky is Falling and Badge of Infamy. So those are the easy ones because I could put those in the same place because they're both the same author. That does not hold, I don't think, for the rest of these. Robert Lowry's The Eyes of Bolsk and Mac Reynolds' The Space Barbarians. Cradle of the Sun by Brian M. Stableford. And The Wizards of Centuria by Kenneth Bulmer. The Wrecks of Time by Michael Moorcock. And Emile Patage's Tramontane. So those are the big Ace Double books. The rest of the Ace Double books, annoyingly, slightly smaller. I don't care which size they went for, I just wish they'd have stuck with it. Jack Vance, Son of the Tree. And The Houses of Zizm, also by Jack Vance. Enigma from Tantalus, John Brunner, and another John Brunner. The Repairmen of Cyclops. Demon's World by Kenneth Bulmer. And I Want the Stars by Tom Purdom. Another one where it's the same writer on both sides. Damon Knight in this case, Off Centre. And The Rithian Terror. John Brunner again with The Altar of Ascanal. And Android Avenger by Ted White. John Baxter's The Off-Worlders. And Lynn Carter's The Star Magicians. Mankind Under the Leash by Thomas M. Dish. And Planet of Exile by Ursula K. Le Guin. Now, up until now, the ace doubles have looked like this to a lesser or greater extent, so the font changes but the basic design stays the same. Thanks, ace doubles. Jack Williamson, Dome Around America, and Charles L. Harness's The Paradox Men. Well, I just realised something, so I've saved myself a little bit of shelf space already. Beyond the Silver Sky by Kenneth Bulmer, and John Brunner's Meeting at Infinity. A. Bertrand Chander's Bring Back Yesterday, and Clifford D. Simak's, just Clifford Simak here. I don't know what happened to the D. The Trouble with Tycho. And last but not least for that cubicle of the shelf, the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction by John Clute and Peter Nichols. Only another 24 cubicles of the bookshelf to go, as well as all the ones on top of the bookshelf. I think at the end of this I am going to have to put some kind of embargo on myself buying more books until I've read a chunk. But until next time, bye.